Do you know what happens on the other side of the foul line? This workshop's purpose is to provide consistency in certification inspections training. Specifications for bowling are very exact, and this video provides for the standardization of the playing surface as well as the equipment. There have been many changes to the lane inspection workshop program since it started in 1983. Both structure and content have changed, yet the goal remains the same: certifying centers yearly. You might wonder why yearly inspections are done. USBC requires these inspections, which safeguards the proprietor's investment, protects bowlers' equipment, and maintains scoring potential. For example, a flat gutter that is too deep could prevent pin action. A flat gutter that is too shallow could create excessive pin action, and therefore each could affect scoring. Since 1983, there have been hundreds of workshops conducted with the cooperation of proprietors and volunteer trainers. In 2010, there were over 5,200 certified centers, which held over 109,000 lane beds. It is important to note that people who certify lanes need not be on the committee, nor do they have to be graduates of an LIW class. USBC does encourage that a future inspector take the computerized lane inspection program and/or the hands-on class of the lane inspection workshop. Bowling personnel have taken the LIW and become inspectors, but we must remember that objectivity is needed when completing an inspection. Your training will involve endurance and physical capability to move about the lanes and operate in tight quarters. The manual and a copy of this DVD will become useful tools, as you can use them to refresh your memory on center certifications. Sports are played on a variety of surfaces: hockey on ice, golf on grass, basketball on wood, and bowling on wood, or synthetic, or a combination of the two. The support system of the lane is called the cribbing, or substructure. This support system, or foundation, requires skill and precise construction because the bowling lane must meet exacting specifications. Once the cribbing is in place, then the lanes may be installed, whether wood or synthetic. Today, synthetics are the more common choice. Bowling's playing surface takes quite a beating, and eventually the lanes start to look like this one. Resurfacing is the act of cutting into the wood lane to make the lane level and smooth. To resurface a lane, you first remove the old finish with a drum sander, and for the tight places, an edger sander can be used. After the drum sander, the lane is checked for levelness and then marked. A cross sander then is used to level the lanes. Various grits of sandpaper are used to take the least amount of wood off the lane as possible. With proper care, a wood lane could last as long as 25 years before being replaced. When the boards loosen, an epoxy is injected into the lanes, and when the epoxy cures, the playing field becomes solid again. Final repairs are done to the lane: patching, fixing nails, replacing broken boards, and at the end of day one, oil dry is applied to the first 15 feet of the lane. Oil dry absorbs all the oil that is within the boards. Day 2 begins with cleaning the oil dry and prepping the lanes for the top coat phase. Before a top coat is placed on the lanes, the resurfacer will stencil the lane on the 4-board on the 7-pin side, approximately 3 feet ahead of the head pin. This stencil will have the resurfacer's name, the date, and type of finish. After the first coat has been applied, base coat sealing the wood, the resurfacer must buff or screen the lane to remove any raised grains. Then the top coat is applied, or the finish. After the lanes are done, the approaches can be done with a top coat finish as well. The lanes will dry, cure, and then the lanes can be dressed with lane conditioner for bowling. Clean lanes increase the longevity of the finish. It takes continued maintenance to have a beautiful ice rink, finely manicured green, or a dazzling hardwood floor, and the playing surface of the bowling center is no different. The playing field consists of 3 basic areas: the approach, the lanes, and the pit. Certifying lanes can be done with such simple tools as a 100-foot tape measure, a 42-inch USBC level, and a set of feeler gauges. Currently, the local association and the proprietor will schedule a time to have the lanes inspected. Once the time comes for inspection, safety is a major concern for an inspector. We will begin the certification by going through the 4-page certification form step by step. Page 1 asks for the essential information of the center: type of lanes, equipment, and inspector's information. This information can change often, so it is important to get the current facts so that USBC will have the correct and up-to-date information. Page 2 is all yes and no questions, but let's take you through them one by one. Question 1, approach length. You'll want to use the 100-foot tape here and simply measure the approach area from the foul line back. The minimum acceptable length is 15 feet. 2. The foul line. Another easy measurement here. The minimum is 3/8 of an inch and the maximum is 1 inch. 3. Again, use your measuring tape to make sure the targets and guides, including on the approach, are all equally and properly spaced, then check yes on the form. 4. Lane length from pin side edge to center of head pin should be 60 feet, plus or minus half an inch. 5. Pin spots. For this one, you'll want to use your pit end gauge to make sure the spots are 2 1/4 inches diameter and 12 inches from center to center. 6. Kickback plates. Take this measurement using the feeler gauge. The maximum is 3/16 of an inch thick. 7. Pit depth. Here we'll use the gutter gauge to get our number. The minimum is 4 3/4 inches on automatic machines and 9 1/2 inches when using manual or semi-automatic. 8. Pit lengths. The minimum is 25 inches on automatic and 30 inches on manual or semi-automatic. You will again use the gutter gauge. 9A. Synthetic or panelized lanes and pin decks. The gap maximum is 0.050 inches. Use your feeler gauge here, and again for 9B to calculate the drop. The maximum reading is 0.04 inches. 10. Approach depressions. Use the feeler gauge or dial indicator with a level. Take the reading 5 inches from the foul line, and the maximum is 1/4 inch. Number 11, no tool required here. Just make sure the automatic foul detecting devices are operational. 12. Flat gutters. Make sure they slope gradually from the point opposite or 15 inches ahead of number 1 pin to pit and have square bottoms. You can do this visually or you can use your gutter gauge. 13. Pin spotting. On the first cycle, pins should spot within 1/4 of an inch of their mark. 14. Measure the edge strips. The maximum width is 1/2 inch and the maximum radius is 5/32 of an inch. Moving on to page 3, use your pit end gauge for items 15 through 18. Question 15 is the wood-to-wood measurement. Take this measurement, add the thickness of both kickback plates, and the total should be 60 to 60 1/4 inches. 16. Width of the lane should be 41 to 42 inches. 17. The width of each gutter needs to be 9 to 9 1/2 inches. 18. Record the distance from the center of the corner spot to the edge using the pit end gauge. 19. Check the gutter depths from the center of the last row of pins using the gutter gauge. This should read 3 3/8 to 3 5/8 inches. For number 20, get out the level and feeler gauges to measure the crosswise tilt on the pin deck. The maximum here is 40 thousandths. 21 is lengthwise tilts on the pin deck with a maximum of 187 thousandths or 3/16 of an inch. And page 4, number 22, still using the level and feeler gauges, measure and record the crosswise tilt in 3 areas. 23, do the same for the crowns and depressions. You can also use the dial indicator here, but be sure to check 3 different areas. 24 is the final measurement. It's lengthwise tilts in 3 areas using the level and the feeler gauges. This is required only for new centers. The reason for the computer lane monitor is to determine how much oil is on the lanes and to see if it meets USBC specifications. There are 2 components to the computer lane monitor, and they are the tape take-up device and the computer lane monitor. The tape take-up device is exactly what its name is, a device that lays and picks up the tape. The straighter the 2 tapes align, the easier it is to read in the computer lane monitor. The device works best if you take your time and use a 45-degree angle when pushing each sled across the lane. The computer lane monitor is the device that reads the tape. From here, one can determine if the oil applied is to USBC specifications. There are 3 models currently being used by local associations. The black box, which is done by hand, is the oldest, and it's becoming obsolete due to not being repairable. The silver box is the one that was an upgrade from the black box and uses a computer to help generate a graph. The newest version is the gold box and does not have range limits as the silver box does. Hopefully you now have all the information you need, but should questions arise, please don't hesitate to call the USBC Specs and Certs team. It's 1-800-514-2695, extension 8972.